today just to separate out.
I mean, we haven't seen these yet.
Lambton Shores,
We didn't have a chance to see them.
I have copies.
We need to.
Okay. Dave?
I have a question here in regards to option 1 here. If I read the thing correctly, it says that Lambton Shores net cost is $2.3 million for 2,200 meters of capacity, right? And at the bottom it says if we do the full build, and assume Blue Water's portion, it's 3,900 meters capacity. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if Blue Water opts back in 10 years, we're back down to 2,200, right?
Well, yes, they're in a kind of a worst case scenario, but again, the lawyers were trying to work on how that, it was recognized by both parties that this has to be more clearly defined. I probably should discuss in camera some of that discussion because it relates to the joint agreement and our relationship with
Going further, is this a legal matter or not? Come on, let's not.
Well, I don't know that it's very speculative at this point. The lawyer's been asked to.
Let's not have a discussion. Let's not have a discussion. Please, let's have a discussion on the right stuff, not the wrong stuff. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I apologize, but
I agree. We don't
need to go down those roads. Let's keep it on the right road.
Yep. Anything else, Dave?
Another question then too, John, on the Watson report here. It talks about the increase on the bills now.
Which page?
Let's go page 6.
6 on the, this is the full build single train?
So it's page 22.
Okay.
So you have on here, and I assumed it correctly that if this, if the single train was to go through, the increase on the actual sewer rate would be $1.05 cubic meter.
I'll defer to Janet on
Or cubic meter rate.
The constant,
It goes
constant
from-
rate.
Yeah, from $1.67 to $2.32.
So then if you went ahead, John, and you did your option 3, how would that impact the actual sewer rate?
Well, we'd have, what we were trying to, again, this was a creative thing, was acknowledging that the operating costs should be borne by the people that are using the system. And could a case be made for that? And we haven't invested a lot of time in it. It was only in the sense that we ran it by Mr. Scanlon, we ran it by Barry Card, and Janet and I have had some discussions about, and again, it really is subject to council getting some direction about, is that even on the table? Because our current philosophy was a user pay system, 100%. And so we have no real authority other than speculation. I'm starting to fade, so my shoulders are a little stiff too. So it requires some more exploration, some dialogue with council as to what it would like to see. But I think I really believe, and I made reference to, and the reason it came up was the existing systems, Grand Bend and Narcona, and they were seen as a global benefit to their communities, and they are to Lambton Shores. And so a case could be made that it's a benefit to us as a driver of growth and future development, and therefore, which we all benefit from in terms of our tax rates and so on and so forth, and our consumption rates. But what is the reasonable proportion? We simply, for the math purposes, said all the debt, and maybe that's not fair either. Maybe that should be split amongst the existing users. So it requires a little bit of additional work and more direction from council on that issue.
John?
I just had a headache.
Apologies.
It's all right, it wasn't you.
February Day?
Thank you. For you to John. John, when we were meeting with Gary Scanlon back on what would happen with the life cycle replacement costs in the future. He indicated that we would keep a very low payment on the life cycle until we reach the end of payment of the capital, and then it would escalate quite significantly. Because if it was a full build, we'd go from paying our portion and jump up to $27 million, right? So at some point in the future, we were going to have
Well,
a s-
not
very pretty
27 million, because we. okay,
well,
we'll get it.
less a little bit here and there for different things, but,
Only a portion.
well, ultimately, the whole.
Worst case scenario.
Yes, worst case scenario, if the others weren't involved, there's always a possibility, right? So, so the challenge is that that's really, we just have stats from 2012 to 2020 here.
Mhm.
So we really don't see beyond that 15-year time frame here, so we don't really see the escalation of the rates when it really starts to hurt, and we're trying to pay back the life cycle, which is significantly more than what we pay for capital costs on the outset, right? So, and I think there's an expectation that we're gonna have a fairly significant development by that point to help to offset the costs, which is of course speculative, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen with the economy, both locally and internationally. So, how could you explain to us what exactly will happen with the rates pull out, because we really don't have a clarity on that.
Again, in deference to the board, again, about trying to collapse this down to what our realistic financing term is for this project would be 20 years. Watson used our 10-year window for analysis purposes. But again, council's never made a decision about how it wants to address life cycle funding. In that regard, this sewage treatment facility you can either have a blended, somewhat arbitrary 20-year life cycle replacement period, or you can break that down in terms of the components. Mechanical systems, electrical systems have varying life cycles. The heavy concrete has 30 to 40-year life cycles, and so some municipalities in their planning help to even that out so that it's not the 27, the full replacement right off. They phase that in, and so phasing it in terms of life cycle, and this is where council needs to have Gary. I tried to have Gary available for the meeting Monday, and he was committed to somebody else. But we need to have that dialogue with what is the most effective way to approach that. Part of the consideration or the assumptions can be made is if you're going to speculate on that full build-out, worst case scenario, you also have to speculate on full growth and development aspect, which generates significant amounts of money from development charges and so on and so forth, from the development people that are coming to pay their fair share of that in the life cycle, and recognizing that you're adding to that customer base of people that are able to. So, to a certain degree, and how you manage that, you can make it manageable. I think if you were looking at saying that, we're going to fund this whole project forever on the 2,713 people, that's. Quite frankly, we didn't pursue it that far, but I would prefer to have Mr. Scanlon here to have that dialogue and more. He's more expert on how that issue might be addressed.
I guess just another comment on making decisions with lack of information, which so many seem to accuse us of sometimes. I guess it's been my experience in the past, due diligence with such a complex issue as this requires that full discussion, not just with our staff, but with our consultants. Again, we haven't been able to get this on the table. We haven't been able to get them here to talk to us to even get those answers. So we do have our staff now. We did have our consultant here Monday. He's not here today because, quite frankly, we pay him every time he comes. So why would he come today unless we know that we're really going to need him to look at some of these scenarios in terms of Mr. Scanlon? I'm talking about Dylan.